everybody. Thank you for coming. Got a good group and a lot of work to do tonight, so let's get to it. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll?
Yes, thank you. David Dixon.
Here.
Kevin Richard.
Here.
Bobby Jarrett.
Here.
Mac Arnold.
Here.
XR Royster.
Here.
Dickie Johnson.
Here.
Gary Gibson.
Here.
Doug Bell. Stacy Denton. Kevin Herron. Gray Hodge.
Here.
Frank Boyette.
Here.
Very good. Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Steve Arnett, who is sitting in our attorney's chair this evening. Tommy Joe is out of town. I think he's going to be joining us via Zoom. Good. We've got several public hearing items. I'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? We're in public hearing. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the January 3, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion to approve the January 3rd, 2023 minutes as distributed.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Minutes are approved. Before we proceed, I would like to, it has been pointed out or suggested that we, Commission might consider reordering the agenda. The intent being, if we should go into it tomorrow evening as well, then we would only have one issue remaining that we can deal with. So I'm going to propose that we proceed in this order: rezoning 1139, the Met Tower 4241 site plan, the Met Tower 4242 site plan, the alleyway closure request that we have tabled, and then rezoning 1140 with a development plan. I'll entertain a motion to reorder the agenda if that is the Commission's wish.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So very good. That puts at the top of the public hearing agenda rezoning 1139. I think Ms. Marks is going to introduce that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rezoning 1139 is submitted by Gary and Deborah Murphy for the property located in Henderson County adjacent to 11247 Highway 351, being parcel ID number 97-55 and containing approximately 52.86 acres. The applicants are requesting a zoning change map amendment from surface mining to agricultural district to construct a single-family dwelling. If you will look in your packet and or on the screen, this is the parcel that we are looking at to rezone to agricultural. Surrounded by the white area there is other agriculturally zoned properties. Behind it there you'll see that is all surface mining as well. There are adequate infrastructure out there for the construction of a single-family home. If anyone has any questions in regards to that rezoning, I will take them now, or I also have findings to read into the record whenever you're ready for those.
Any questions for staff from the Commission?
I have one. It's kind of hard to tell from the map. So the flagged portion of the parcel that connects with 351, what's the road frontage of that?
It is, I believe, if you look on the or the plat that's in your packet, it is 52.862 feet. So, and right now we require a 50-foot frontage.
Okay. Just want to confirm that what the number was.
A single family with dwelling is not allowed in the current zone.
Correct.
Any other questions for staff from the Commission? Would anyone here tonight like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Thank you, sir. I'll need your name.
Chris Hopgood,
Address.
318 2nd Street, Henderson.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth this evening?
I do.
Thank you very much. How can we help?
Represent the Murphys and was assisting them with this rezoning. They acquired the property from Penn, Virginia, so they acquired it as it was zoned, which was surface land, and they live nearby and would like for their son to be able to build a single-family dwelling on it. So that's the nature of the rezone. We're glad to answer any questions anyone's got.
Thank you, sir. Commission have any questions for the gentleman? Thank you. Anyone else here tonight wanting to speak in favor of this rezoning? Anybody here to speak otherwise? Or questions? Yes, sir. And your name, sir?
William Litzy,
Address?
931 First Street.
You promise to tell the whole truth and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Already approximately 50% of our population lives outside of the city limits inside of Henderson, according to the report that I read with the City County Planning Commission Master Report. A study by a nonprofit 501c media advocacy group found that single-family housing, especially rural single-family housing, costs far more in infrastructure costs, both in maintenance, in creating that much infrastructure to the place, and also just in the heating, cooling costs in that area, as well as the then increased reliance on car travel for that housing project to get the resources it needs to continue to sustain. And I find that allowing more single-family housing, especially outside of the county, will only continue to exacerbate financial problems inside of the city, as well as the planning problems we have seen as far as over 50% of lots being taken up by parking and et cetera.
So you're in opposition to this?
I'm in opposition.
Mr.
Any questions for
Litzy,
this gentleman?
if I may speak really quick, again, we did mention that utilities are already in this area. If you notice, all of those lots fronting where this one would currently go are actually all single-family homes, and so there's already adequate infrastructure, so we would not be increasing any kind of cost there. And also, they would be responsible for putting in their own septic tank. So from a sewer standpoint, that would be what's taken care of there.
Okay.
Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else want to address this issue? Anything else from the commission? Ms. Marks, I think you have findings of fact you'd like to share with us?
I do. Would you like to swear me in?
Yes, I would. Your name,
Jennifer Marks,
address?
1990 Barrett Court, Suite C.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very good.
Okay. Again, this is rezoning 1139 submitted by Gary and Deborah Murphy for the property located in Henderson County adjacent to 11247 Highway 351, parcel ID number 97-55, and containing approximately 52.86 acres. Again, the applicants are requesting a zoning change map amendment from surface mining to agricultural district to construct a single-family dwelling. A proposed motion could include, I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the Henderson County Fiscal Court approve rezoning application 1139, changing the zoning classification from surface mining to agricultural district for the subject property, and I could leave the motion open for other members of the Planning Commission to add findings in fact in support of this motion, because although the proposed rezoning is not currently in agreement with our future land use map of the comprehensive plan, the existing zone is inappropriate and the proposed zoning is appropriate because the property in that area has developed into single-family residences. Surrounding parcels are zoned in a similar nature. This rezoning will not negatively affect other parcels in the area. Rezoning this parcel creates positive infill in a currently vacant area, and this proposed development is served by adequate infrastructure and utilities.
Okay, thank you. Commission have any further questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion in regard to rezoning 1139.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to adopt into a motion the statement that Ms. Marks has read into the record as a finding of facts, to rezoning 1139. Be open to any of them.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any amendments to the motion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
XR Royster.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Gray Hodge.
Yes.
Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. According to the amended agenda, we now will deal with these two tower site plans that are non-public hearing items, so I need a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? We are out of public hearing. Ms. Marks, you gonna take care of the towers too?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I read both of these site plan descriptions in at the same time so that their representative may discuss both of them since they're similar in nature?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. So item number 3 under non-public hearing is the Met Tower 4241 site plan submitted by Cordelio Power for property located in Henderson County, being a portion of property ID number 106-41. The applicants are requesting site plan approval. Item number 4 is Met Tower 4242 site plan, which is submitted also by Cordelio Power for property located in Henderson County, being a portion of property ID number 115-16. Applicants are requesting site plan approval for that as well. So for the first one, if you will look here, I'm going to give a brief overview, and then their representative will be able to go into more detail on kind of what their plans are. You will see here that the first Met Tower is planned. We go to the next one. It's a little bit easier to see. Yeah. So right here is their planned. I believe they're leasing a portion of that property to be able to place these towers. A Met Tower, in my brief description, is what they would call kind of a weather tower. So they will be placing these to do some testing on wind for later potential placement of wind turbines. And then the second tower, if you want to go on to the next one. Oh, you can see both of them here. There we go. So 4241 is going to be the more northern one. And then 4242 is down here, more southern area. And then I believe that their representative is here, two of them, if you guys want to get up and kind of give more information on what the plan is, or if there's any questions, or however you guys want to do that.
What are these sites zoned?
They're both zoned surface mining.
Okay. Yes, sir. First of all, does the commission have any questions for staff? Very good. Your name, sir?
Kyle Gerking,
Your address?
6212 144th Street, Weeping Water, Nebraska.
You promise-
68463.
Okay, thank you. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. How are you associated with this project?
So I represent Tenaska. We have a joint development agreement with Cordelio Power, so we're supporting their efforts to potentially develop a project here in Henderson County. And these meteorological towers provide us information regarding the wind resource here, so we can assess the viability of a potential wind farm at this location.
I've got a question for you.
Sure.
I understand that these towers you're putting up right now probably won't have too much of an effect on migratory bird flight paths. But any wind farm, have you given any thought as to how to mitigate that?
That'll be part of the actual development of the wind project. We'll do studies with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and follow their wind energy guidelines that they put out for developers. So we will be out there doing studies to identify the species of concern and assess the risk and work to mitigate that.
How tall are these towers?
These are just shy of 200 feet.
And what is on top of them?
There's anemometers and wind vanes on them to measure wind speed and direction at multiple elevations on the tower.
And how long do you expect to gather data before you proceed?
It all varies based on the development cycle timeline of the project, but typical would be 3 to 5 years, and then they come down and everything's removed.
Any other questions?
I guess from an illumination standpoint, obviously a 200-foot tall tower, you have to have some lighting for helicopter aircraft, but will there be any ground level lighting at these sites?
Yes, but below 200 feet, we're actually below the threshold
Okay, so you
for
don't
notice
have
to the
have the
FAA.
warning lights, okay.
But we did opt for, there's voluntary high visibility options that we added, so the towers that we're proposing will have the same marker balls you see there, and we do have an obstruction light on the top as well, a solar powered obstruction light, and then there's just guy guards at the bottom, so those are visible.
Any other questions?
I know we're talking about the tower, but is there gonna be a perimeter fence around these towers?
Not around the tower itself. There may be, sometimes you put them around the guy structures if there's cattle or something, but there's no plans to install them here. So no livestock.
I was just wondering about, the concerns of individuals going out there trying to climb it.
It's, yeah,
Do y'all have any safeguards blocking off any possibility of?
there's not
climbing?
really anything to climb. It's just a 10-inch pole.
Okay.
Basically a monopole tower.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's supported by guys, but it's just a 10-inch pole
Okay.
that next down to 8
Yeah,
inches.
it ain't tubular then. It ain't like a bolt together tower. that-
No, it's not a lattice type.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
It's my understanding, staff can assist me on this, perhaps Mr. Durkin, but if this project is deemed feasible and the parties would like to proceed, that will begin a rather lengthy procedural process before us. Is that correct?
We are actually in the process now, or getting to the beginning stages of creating a wind ordinance. The county currently does not have, like we have a solar ordinance. A wind ordinance would be something else. We are working with Kyle and people that do these because there's currently not one in the state of Kentucky for us to, recreate the wheel. However, there's not one for Kentucky. So we will be doing that here in the near future in case those do come to fruition. So you all will see that, of course, come to you for that approval.
Okay. There is no such ordinance in the state of Kentucky.
According to the Energy and Environmental Cabinet, wind ordinances are not registered with them currently.
Okay.
So there are some in Indiana and Tennessee that we can pull. Missouri has several, so we're going to be pulling those.
Okay. So that may lay in the future. The gentleman pointed out 3 to 5 years is typical data gathering time. Any other questions from the commission? Anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor of these towers? Anyone here to speak against them or have questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion in regard to Met Tower 4241 site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion to approve the site plan submitted for Met Tower 4241, submitted by Cordell Power for property located in Henderson County, PID 106-41, requesting the site plan approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
XR Royster.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Gray Hodge.
Yes.
Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion in regard to Met Tower 4242 site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Met Tower 4242 site plan submitted by Cordelio Power for the property located in Henderson County and being portion of PID 115-16.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Frank Boyette,
Yes.
Gray Hodge,
Yes.
Gary Gibson,
Yes.
Dickie Johnson,
Yes.
XR Royster,
Yes.
Mac Arnold,
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett,
Yes.
Kevin Richard.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. We need to go back into public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed? We're back into public hearing. Next item is the alleyway closure request that we have discussed before. I'll entertain a motion to take that item off the table.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. We're back discussing the alleyway closure request. I think Mr. Bishop's going to help with that one.
Yes, sir. You may remember that this item was at last month's meeting, as the chairman said. The neighbors raised several questions that we asked Mr. Doug Boom, our city engineer, to address. Mr. Boom has done that and has put his correspondence in the packet. So with that, we would like to ask Mr. Boom to come forward so he can answer any questions.
Is your name, sir?
Doug Boone, 222 First Street.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
After the meeting last month, the next day I went out to look at it. And I did notice some of the issues about the trees along the fence line. And those were eventually cut down around the space over to it.
Do you want the pictures?
Yes.
Yeah. Down to the trees.
So this is actually looking off of Garfield towards properties. And you can see that first garage there is the first lot next to the church. Go to the next one. This is actually looking down from Maple to the alley. There is a drop off at the blacktop right there, which the city will address. This is actually looking from the church property, looking back up towards the east, up to Maple. There looks to be plenty of access room there for anybody to get in and out. And this is the actual drop off at Maple that the city will address with some paving to eliminate that, to monitor it.
Doug, can you elaborate on what they'll do?
I'm sorry, they will come in and either overlay to bring it down at least probably 5-10 feet off the edge of the pavement to make a smoother transition. So it's not a drop off, it is a drop off.
You might want to mention the timing with the asphalt
That'll
plant.
be done in the spring when the plant's open. The public instructor is here if you have any comments on that.
Okay. Does the commission have any questions for this gentleman? Everybody has, I think, a copy of his report in the packet.
Thanks for going out there and verifying the issues that was obvious. So,
Yeah, I think you've reasonably addressed the concerns of the neighbors.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone here would like to speak against this proposal or have any further questions about it? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Dane Shields, 101 First Street, Henderson, Kentucky.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you. How can we help?
I represent two of the members of the public that own real estate on this public alleyway. that have been using the public alleyway for ingress and egress for a number of years. And they're here with me tonight. It's Patty Morris at 519 Roosevelt. This property runs, the alleyway runs parallel with Roosevelt Street. So the way this area has developed, the owners on Roosevelt Street have built their garages on the alleyway. And so that's how they get in and park. Patty Morris is the property owner adjoining the church lot. And her property touches a point of the right-of-way that's going to be closed, and she does not consent to the alleyway being closed. Her next-door neighbor also is on the alleyway. That's Gail Wallace. She's at 1923 Roosevelt. She also has a garage on the alleyway, and she uses this alleyway for ingress and egress. Next to her property is 1525 Roosevelt. I have Ashley Dodge and Nick McClure. They use this public alleyway for ingress and egress, and wish for the alleyway to remain open. Now, I don't like objecting to things that churches or schools want to do. I mean, that's a good thing. But this is public property that the public has a right to use, that's being asked to be closed for the benefit of an entity for their private use. And so, on behalf of members of the public that have the right to use public property, we're asking for your discretion not to close the alleyway. We do really appreciate Mr. Boone going out, and some bushes were trimmed, and the end on Oak Street, that does need to be addressed, but that's not the issue here. The issue is is a public alley going to be closed for the benefit of a private entity where members of the public use the alleyway? And I think there's some, Mr. Arnett may be able to speak to this, I think, to adopt findings of fact, to grant the closure of an alleyway. One of the findings of fact have to be that the member of the public who abuts the alleyway has consented to it, giving a written consent in front of a notary public, and certainly that is not the case here. So I would ask this commission's discretion in allowing the public to use a public alleyway for the purpose it was intended, instead of allowing a private entity to be able to close it for their personal use and deny the public the right of that use. So that's what I have to
Mr.
say.
Chairman, can I add one thing?
Yes.
The Plan Commission is not closing the alley itself. We are only recommending for the alley to be closed or to be left open. The Board of Commissioners will decide on that themselves, not us, or not the Plan Commission, excuse me.
Okay, so we're being asked to make a recommendation or not?
We are being asked to make a recommendation. We do not have the legal authority to close the alley.
Okay. Can you show us where this property owner who doesn't want to close abuts this section?
Yes.
And how wide that is?
Can I point with my pen? Okay.
So which address are you talking about?
Okay, we
1519.
are, the church
Is right here.
is right here. Okay, you're pointing there. The individuals I represent are right beside it,
Right here.
1519. Right beside it, 1523. Also here tonight is 1525 in opposition to it. And also we have a text message from the owner of 23 Maple, which is right here on the alley, and they all object to the alley being closed because they use it as a member of the public for ingress and egress. So
Okay, at what point does any of their property overlap the portion of the alley proposed for closure?
well, the one that touches it, that touches the point that's being closed would be right here.
No, that's not true.
Mr. Chairman, here is the plat that shows the portion of the alley that is being requested to be closed. So you would go from here to here. The property line for the next one looks like it is right here.
I don't see the overlap, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I can't tell where the line is. I was out on site today and it's not marked, so.
This is the church lot right here.
All right.
And this is the junior property, so they close the second lot line.
Okay, so it
So-
touches at the lot line.
Where does it touch a lot line?
It's at a point.
It's at
It
a
shares-
point.
So right here would be the blue dot that they're referring to that would touch, I believe this was 1519. Yes.
So there is a.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman.
this is Tommy Joe Friday. Mr. Chairman and the commission, the pertinent point is not whether a property touches the alley proposed to be closed. It's whether they use that public alley to access their property.
Thank you.
Are
Thank
there
you.
not alternative routes they can use for access?
Maybe so, that's not the point.
Yes,
We
it
use
is.
the public alley, and so the public is using the alley, and they're using the part of the alley that wishes to be closed. Now, you're right, Frank, they can go another way, but they've been using that public alley.
Yes, but the church has safety issues there with their kids for their school. There's a legitimate interest in closing that out.
Well, let me address that. We have we have North Middle School on one of the busiest streets in Henderson. We have Henderson County High on one of the busiest streets in Henderson. We have the Thelma B. Johnson School on Green Street, one of the busiest streets in Henderson. And they deal with more cars than run down McKinley. This is an alleyway where the neighbors have been cognizant that there is kids in the neighborhood, so they try not to use that alleyway while the school's in session. But they use it on weekends and in the evenings. And so what do those schools do to safeguard children? They have patrol people that are out there. They can put up lights to warn the traffic that kids are there, or signs. They can put speed limit signs up. And that's what schools do in busy sections of town to be safe for the kids. Of course you want to do that. And so that's within their power. This isn't any different than any other school. And we don't close down Green Street because Thelma B. Johnson is on Green Street.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something here?
Yes.
To Mr. Shields' point, none of those examples occupy both sides of the public right-of-way either, with the playground.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I'll ask again, well, maybe I'll ask again. Is anyone here to speak in favor of this alley closing? Yes, sir. Would you like to address it? Your name, sir?
My name is Mark Carter. I'm pastor of Christian Life Church, principal of Christian Life Education Center.
Okay, we need your address.
My address is 8061 Old US 60 East, Pottsville, Kentucky.
Thank you. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Again, I believe I explained last month that we have 67 kids that attend our school. We do own the property on both sides of the alley, and the section that we wish to close is only the section where we own the property on both sides. We understand that there is an entrance and an exit, two different places where the neighbors, actually some of these neighbors are actually closer to another entrance than they are to the one that we use. We understand them liking to use our entrance, but we maintain it, and we maintain it fairly well. We have put rock in the alley instead of the city. The city has too, but the last time it was rocked, I believe last spring, we did that, and we maintain and make sure bushes are not, impeding in the alley, and so we maintain it. It's well maintained, and we're just concerned about the safety of our kids. They do play across the alley. We own the property over there, and that's where the playground is, and we do maintain 67 kids as best we can, but sometimes they do get in the alley. As the gentleman said earlier, the school on 2nd Street and the school on Green Street, they don't own the property on both sides. We do. We have an alley that runs up through the middle of our property, and it's just not safe for our kids that way. We do the best we can, and we've been there 29 years, and we've not had an incident with a kid getting hurt by a car in the alley. In fact, since we have purchased the property, we have very few cars that come up through the alley, but it's just something that we're concerned about, the safety of our kids playing in the alley, and since we own the property on both sides, it just makes sense to us that we close that one section, and it still leaves two entrances for all the neighbors. Even the Henderson City trash truck, I don't believe, comes through our section of the alley. Our trash collector does, but the city of Henderson, I believe, comes in one and then makes the curve and goes out the other. That's what I've seen them do. So, also, since we bought the property on the other side, we have a storage building there, and they tell us that that's not, you can't have a storage building on property that you don't have the main building. So that would also have to be, all the buildings, we have a couple buildings over there for storage, and that would have to be moved to the other side of the alley where our main church building is. And so, but our main concern again is the safety of our kids that play in the alley. They were playing there today, and we do a good job, I think, keeping them safe. We have for 29 years, but all it takes is one time. It would just be safer, and it would be nice not to have an alley running up through the middle of our property.
Okay. Any questions for this gentleman from the commission? Thank you, sir.
I've got a question.
I'm sorry.
Hello.
Okay.
And I brought this up at the last meeting. The long lot, I guess, coming off of, is that
Maple.
Roosevelt
Or Maple?
or Maple?
Yeah.
down there where the lot line is, you can see where traffic cuts in on that corner right there.
Right, yeah. There's a fence there.
There's not a fence there.
There is a fence.
Well, is the fence angled?
Yes.
But that property line,
There's a picture of it.
yeah, I know, but the
That-
property line goes out. So if that landowner decided to put a fence up on his property line, how would people like the city trash truck be able to turn that corner? Or anybody that's pulling a trailer, turn that corner?
Well, there's already a fence there. It's chamfered at an angle.
I know, but
Allow
if
for
that
access.
landowner come up there and said, well, I want to put a fence on my property line, which would cut that angle off, how would the traffic get through there? I'm just asking a question.
Brian, Public Works Director's here. He can answer
Yeah,
that.
okay. Well, I didn't know who I need to address to, but
Well, I think the important thing to note there, sorry, Dawn, is that the GIS is only somewhat correct because alleys obviously move. We know that. And so I know that you're seeing this here, and this, we don't have an, well, we don't currently have one with us. I can look, but for a plat showing that easement there, or showing how much, if this is an accurate property line. And so remember, this is
that's
just.
my concern.
I got you, and I got you. And there is a current, you can kind of see that there, like a chain link fence that goes down through there. But take these lines with a grain of salt until we're able to get an updated plat for that area to know what the parcel lines are.
And they wouldn't be allowed to put a fence in an easement.
Excuse me,
And
ma'am.
there's
I need your name, please.
Dawn Kelsey,
Your address.
222 First Street.
You promise to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good, thank you.
They wouldn't be allowed.
You know,
to
I
put a
understand
fence.
that.
Right,
But
okay.
when we're looking at these hypothetical lines, property lines, and it goes out into that corner, if that property owner actually owns it, and he decides, well, I'm gonna, you know, put the fence on my property line, and we wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
Dawn, is there a prescribed easement there from the city standpoint?
So they wouldn't, you know, we would work with the property owner, but they wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason my concern is if we close this alley, that was some of the questions that was brought up last month, is how we would be able to make the turns. Well, some of them said, well, we go straight through when we're pulling the trailer.
Yeah, but you can pull from Garfield through that alley and access that out to the north as well.
What I would like to bring up, closing that alley and making it safer for the kids, are we keeping anybody from getting to their back alley?
No.
Okay.
They still have access off Maple as well as
They
Garfield.
still got a way to get to their alley. And we got to remember that is a alley,
Right.
but we're not blocking nobody from getting to their house.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Any other questions from Mr. Boone? Okay. Ms. Kelsey, I have one. Is there any kind of, can you share any kind of precedent here?
I'm sorry.
Has this or something similar to this been done in the past?
Closing an alley,
Well,
a portion
did-
of alley? Yes,
When you
actually,
had-
the last alley that you all closed,
When the
actually,
landowner-
Mr. Shields represented the landowner, and we only closed partial alley because there was one person whose property touched the alley we were closing, and we left that open for that person. Same situation in this here is because he needed access from the one-way. Here, the individuals have two accesses. So actually, we're in better shape with this one than we were on the Metzger's alley, if you all remember that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shields, do you have something you'd like to add?
Please. On the Metzgers, one difference in that case is the property owners consented to it in writing. We do not have that here. The the owner, that these people that use the alley, and a point of their property touches the alley to be closed, where there's a direct touching upon a single point of the public way to be closed, which we have here, that person has not consented in writing. So I think there's a defect proceeding with when you don't have consent from a person whose property touches the property to be closed at a point. If there's no consent to that, there's a different procedure for closing the alley. And that is for the city attorney to go to the circuit court and close it. And I just don't think we're in a proper procedure. It's procedural.
Tommy Joe, are you there? Can we tell if he's with us?
I am, but I had trouble becoming unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are now unmuted. Did you happen to, were you able to hear Mr. Shields' last comments?
I did, but I would defer to the city attorney because the city, we are only holding a public hearing as a planning commission as an accommodation to the city. This is a city proceeding, so I defer to the city attorney as to the legality and to Mr. Shields' point of law.
Thank you.
Because I represented the city of Seabury so long, I know the answer, but let's get it from the city attorney.
Well, I mean, this is exactly the same thing that you all hear with Metzger's, because that property owner touched the alley, abutted the alley in his definition of abutting, and he did not consent to closing the alley. So what you all hit at that, if you get you to close it for him, if that touched the alley, that's being closed. In this situation, you are only closing the alley past that property owner. But what you could do to make it very clear is just move the alley closing 1 foot off of that property line. Then they no longer abut according to Mr. Shields' definition of abut, which is not defined in the statute, as I've just checked it. And then it would be clear. But you all have done this before, just like you did in the message.
Okay,
Can I
thanks.
ask you a question?
Yes.
Dawn?
Sure.
Is there any credence to Mr. Shields' argument where members of the public have enjoyed use of that alley for years? I don't know if it predated the church's ownership of property on both sides of the alley, but they have had public access to that alley, and they have enjoyed the use of that alley for years. Does that give them any precedent to claim that they should be able to retain the access to that alley in the future?
No, I don't believe so. But I will tell you that in the end, it says if the legislative body or a city determines that a public way located within the city should be closed in whole or in part. That's up to the city commission, but there is no argument in the statute that I've always used it. The statute is only concerned with the people who adjoin that alley. So.
And I would say this, the statute that deals on point with this, it's KRS. And it says, if the people who touch the part that's being closed give their written consent, y'all just make the findings of fact, and then you can close it or recommend the closing of it. If you don't have the written consent, and Steve's looking at the statute, then there's a different procedure that the city has to go through, and that's the city attorney filing an action in the circuit court.
So what we can do to make it very clear is just move the alley 1 foot in away from the property line. Then they no longer abut the alley according to your definition, and it's clear, you know, that no written consent from your client would be necessary.
And so what you're doing with that, you're manipulating lines for the convenience of a private owner and depriving the public from use of a public way. Now, you know, I hear what you're saying, but the public has been using this alleyway, and if you manipulate the line so you take it out where they don't have any rights, the statute provides rights, but you change the line so then they don't have rights, I think that's just manipulation to favor someone who's getting a piece of property for nothing, and it's depriving owners who have been using that public alleyway. Now, you know, it's your discretion, but I'm just...
Mr. Chairman, may I emphasize that we are only recommending?
Yeah.
All right, I want to make sure we're being very clear about that.
Okay.
And if I may add, the statute is directed to a legislative body, the city. And the city can do whatever they want to. This is merely a process for this board to either make a recommendation or not to make a recommendation. The city can take whatever action they deem necessary.
We make a recommendation one way or the other, but regardless, it goes to the city.
Yes.
Exactly.
I agree.
I think that's been clear from the beginning, that we're just making a recommendation. If someone wanted to amend the application so that this closure is 1 foot shorter, what do we do, start all over?
I would make it a lot cleaner than trying to amend it from up here.
Right.
Oh, we're not gonna amend it.
That's what I mean.
I mean, is the city gonna amend it? Is the applicant gonna amend, who would
Your
make the?
applicant would need to make it.
Or we make a recommendation and let the city deal with
Well,
We ought to at least give them our inclinations on whether it ought to be closed or not. I mean, that's what we're charged with doing.
good point. Anybody, any other comments from the commission here? Questions for anyone?
Well, we're here to recommend one way or the other. Now, it's up to the city to do whatever they want to. But our job is to recommend one way or the other.
Right.
No.
Right.
And they can take it from there. But,
Would anyone else here in the audience like to speak to this matter? Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay.
Your name, ma'am?
Gail Wallace, on
Address?
1523 Roosevelt Street.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
promise.
the truth? Thank you.
Can I just point some things out to you
Yes,
guys on
yes, by all
that?
means.
Because I feel like you still aren't getting the full picture, because they say, oh, you can get into your garage easy.
Ma'am, we can't, without the mic, we can't hear you, we can't record you.
Do we have
Okay.
a pointer?
Pardon?
We have one.
He has one right here.
Okay, this is the alley that's in question. The first thing is right here, you know, this is the turn that they're saying we can do. There is a light post, you know, big light post right there, so that obstructs. Right here, you don't see the fence, but there's a fence right here. And they say you should be able to easily get in there and get in your garage. It's not that easy with that chain link fence. You still have to deal with that or you hit it. The other thing, the pothole, which has to do with the entrance, but, okay, this is my house. And I lived there when I was a little girl, so this is an old home place. And I had plans to do some more stuff to my backyard, which if that gets closed, I probably won't do that. But the other thing I want to say too is, I would challenge any of you to go out there and actually look at this and keep in mind access into these garages, and this one, because he works out of there? And also, could a fire truck, if we had a fire in our garage or in the back of our house, is there any way a fire truck could access without that? I think they could there. I may be wrong, but I think they could get to us from there, but I don't think that they could, or even an ambulance, I'm not sure. Any questions?
Any questions for this gentleman? This lady?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, by closing that front alley, that say ain't gonna solve your problem getting into your back lot from the other alley. We're not even talking about the other alley. Y'all, the people that live on the other alleys, they're gonna have a problem getting into their back lot.
Well, the other thing too, though, what the church has done, I mean, for the last year at least, is they station people out there in chairs to block the alley during recess and stuff. So, I mean, everybody is really concerned about the safety issues. But, like I said, if we have a fire, it's gonna be bad luck. So,
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak to this matter? Your name, sir?
Nick McClure. I live at 1525 Roosevelt. I'm Nick McClure, and I live at 1525 Roosevelt. I run a lawn care, small lawn care.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Good.
I run a small lawn care, so I take my truck and trailer up and down through that alley. And realistically, if you take an 18-foot truck and a 22-foot trailer, you are not making that corner, even with the fence pulled back like that, without running off into somebody's property. That was the argument last time that I brought up. And then the other 2 points of entry from the alley are not off of the main road. You have to go around the block to be able to enter and exit, which makes it very inconvenient, and not had to do that in the last 7-8 years that I've lived there. And then, of course, the alleyway entrance being tore up. And it's not been a concern, and we've called about it before in the past. It's been a few years, but nothing has been done about it. And they told us with the trees that they come through the neighborhoods, or they do each section every 10 years. So once they do your section, it'll be another 10 years before they come back through there and trim anything. So it hadn't been trimmed in a long time until within 2 weeks of our last meeting. So it's not something that's well maintained and never has been up until now whenever they're requesting for this. And also the last time their argument was that they were wanting to make that a parking lot. So are they moving the playground or something to the, in between the alleyway and Roosevelt? Because they don't have anywhere else to put it. So I don't understand why they wouldn't have a fence maybe around their playground. They've already taken the precautions. All of us as neighbors do respectfully avoid the alleyway when kids are out there or whenever people are coming in and out to pick up kids. But for several years, they were parking out around the front of our houses and stuff where we couldn't enter and exit our driveways. And I spoke with the preacher several times about it because I couldn't pull in and out. And he said he would take care of it. Well, it ended up coming down to, I had to call the law, and then the law had to contact them and let them know that they are not legally allowed to block roadways or congest roadways for their own purposes of picking up kids, that they had to be on their property, which they did in turn do. In the end, they used the whole gravel parking lot in between the church and that grass patch that they own, that's on in between the alleyway and Roosevelt. So if they're turning that into a parking lot, I don't understand why they would need to close it because of kids playing over there, because that's not going to be the case if that happens. I think, anyway. But, I mean, any of y'all can take a full crew cab F-250 pickup and a 22-foot car trailer and try to make the bend from Garfield up to Maple, and it's not going to happen without tearing up adjoining properties on that corner. It's just not. And I've been doing this for a couple of years, going in and out of that alley, and I've always respectfully, when the kids, I've even come up on Maple myself and took off the drop-off, stopped in front of my garage right at that point and had to back all the way back up to Maple to avoid making them move their kids or people or anything like that. So we've always been very respectful, but they have not been as much towards us. And they also were talking about giving out baskets and stuff like that every year. I can tell you right now, ain't no neighbor on Roosevelt Street gonna tell you they brought a basket there in the last 4 or 5 years. When we first moved in there 7 years ago, they came one time. That very first year, we ain't had nothing good come out of it since, between them.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Anybody have any questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? One way or the other? Or just have a question perhaps? Commission have any further comments? Okay. I'll entertain a motion in regard to this alleyway closure request and what would be our recommendation to the city commission in this regard.
Mr. Chairman, it's been pretty tough to sit here and listen to all the information, but hearing what the city attorney said, and I would like to make a motion that we deny the alley closure submitted by Mark S. Carter of Christian Life Church to vacate a public alleyway located between Garville Avenue and Roosevelt Street in the city of Henderson. And my reason is, I can sit here and look. I have familiarized myself with that area, and I don't deny that this guy driving the trailer, it's almost impossible to get around that if you take in consideration the property line, if that's the real property line. So that's my motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. The motion is to recommend denial of this alley closure, correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard,
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett,
Yes.
Mac Arnold,
No.
XR Royster,
Yes.
Dickie Johnson,
Yes.
Gary Gibson,
No.
Gray Hodge,
Yes.
Frank Boyette,
No.
Everybody?
yes.
I've got 5 to 3.
That would be correct.
Okay, the motion passes. Recommendation is to deny the alley closure. That recommendation goes on to the city commission, so they can take whatever further steps they deem appropriate. Thank you all. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can we wait a minute to allow everyone to kind of shuffle out?
Sure, by all means.
That's true.
Okay. I think we have moved ourselves up to rezoning 1140 with a development plan. I'd like to read the following proposed guidelines for this evening's testimony. I'll ask again if the commission would approve such guidelines. Okay. If the regular meeting and public hearing scheduled for 6 p.m. Tuesday, February 7, 2023, have not been sooner concluded and adjourned, it will stop at 9 p.m. and by motion and vote of the Planning Commission be continued and reconvened the following night, Wednesday, February 8, 2023 at 6 p.m. and stop at 9 p.m. And by motion and vote of the Planning Commission be continued and reconvened at 6 p.m. and stop at 9 p.m. from night to night thereafter until finished. Rules. The Planning Commission very much wants to hear all evidence, comments, statements, positions, suggestions, and questions collectively referred to as comments. Each presenter may or may not allow questions during their presentations at their discretion. All general comments will be heard at the end, and all presentations by staff and county representatives, unless the chairman elects otherwise or unless changed by vote of the Planning Commission. There will be no time limit on attorneys, and attorneys will present comment first. We will begin with attorneys, then non-attorneys. Attorneys may ask questions directly. Questions from non-attorneys must be presented to the chairman, either verbally or in writing, along with who the question is to be directed to, and the chairman will ask the question. That is, non-attorneys may not ask questions directly. Each non-attorney will initially be given 3 minutes. After every non-attorney has had 3 minutes, if there are non-attorneys who would like additional time, an additional 3 minutes will be given. And this procedure will be repeated until everyone has had the opportunity to present all they desire to present. Speakers are asked not to repeat something that another speaker has said, but may come forward in person and say they agree with one or more other speakers and present anything new they might have. Planning commissioners may comment and ask questions at any time. And I will ask for a motion, second discussion, and vote to approve these changes right now. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Good. So we're going to try to make use of those speaking guidelines. Mr. Bishop, I think you're going to kick this off for us?
Yes, sir. This is rezoning 1140 with a development plan submitted by Riverview Co. LLC for the property located in Henderson County across from 6784 Sulphur Springs Road, being parcel ID number 35-11, containing 8.36 acres, and parcel ID number 35-10, containing 46.64 acres, for a total acreage of 55. Combined acreage, excuse me. The applicants request a zoning change map amendment from agricultural district to heavy industrial district to construct a new underground coal mine portal. The applicant has proposed the construction of a mine ventilation fan, office/bathhouse, drainage basins, a sewage lagoon, a substation, and related improvements such as parking with driving aisles. Staff has done our best to provide guidance on this one. In this case, we have not provided findings of fact because we do not feel that it's appropriate to make a recommendation on this at this time. So we request that when you make your motion, you direct staff to come back with findings either for or against. With that, I'll do my best to answer any questions that you have, and I believe the applicant has a presentation they'd like to make.
Very good. Just to be clear, we're in a similar situation as far as we're charged with holding the public hearing and making a recommendation to fiscal court. Fiscal court will have the final decision in this regard. Correct. As far as the rezoning. We will be hopefully making a decision one way or the other as far as that recommendation. And as Mr. Bishop pointed out, we would then ask staff to bring back findings of fact that we would consider just the findings of fact at the next meeting. So, the applicant is with us. A representative of the applicant. Good. Your name, sir?
My name's Bill Edelman.
Good. Could you spell that, please, sir?
A-D-E-L-M-A-N.
Good. And your address?
It's 805 Robinson Road in Morganfield, Kentucky.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir.
I do.
Thank you. Please help us understand what the plan is.
Okay, is my presentation up there?
We are loading that now.
First of all, I'm the general manager of Riverview Coal, located in Union County. With me tonight, I have Brendan McKellar, he's our mine engineer. We've got David Lamb, Associated Engineering. Kim Humphrey, she is our community liaison. I think that's our group.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tommy Joe Friday.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Would you ask this gentleman if his attorney is present? He cannot represent a corporation or an LLC unless he is an attorney in a rezoning matter.
Is your attorney present, sir?
No.
There is.
Is he an attorney?
No.
He is not. Where does that leave us, Tommy Joe?
Ask if they would like for us to table this.
Would you like us to table this so we can...
If we cannot proceed tonight, yes, we would like that.
If they cannot proceed, then yes, they would like to have the table. Are you saying that they can't proceed without an attorney present?
They can't present.
Are you a principal owner of Alliance?
No.
Tommy Joe, can the coal company appoint Mr. Edelman as attorney in fact? Would that suffice?
An attorney, don't have a law degree.
No, I mean, acting as their attorney in fact.
Do they have an authorized representative that can sign and present to the planning commission such a document? Their application did not do that.
Oh, I know that, but
And they were,
would that be
they were asked
sufficient?
yes, they can.
Okay.
It's a technical point that there is opinions on both sides of that, but the Henderson County Planning Commission has taken the position that a corporation can have a non-attorney as an attorney in fact who has authority to bind the corporation.
TJ, when did the Plan Commission take that action?
It's part of the application that was approved by the Planning Commission. And it is state law that a rezoning map amendment being a quasi-judicial proceeding, contrary to an alley closing or a subdivision or a site plan, is a map amendment is a quasi-judicial proceeding. And just like a non-attorney cannot represent a corporation in court, there is law that says they cannot in the Planning Commission.
So there's nothing that these representatives from Riverview can contribute this evening? Is that what I'm hearing? Tommy Joe?
An engineer could contribute factual engineering information, or a surveyor could present factual information regarding the survey, but they can't represent this corporation. Now, it's been our policy to allow a power of attorney, an attorney in fact, but it must be given to the Planning Commission in writing.
Tommy
I was
Joe?
told that Riverview was told this in advance.
Tommy Joe, my question is, on their application that they submitted for the zoning change map amendment, they put in David Lamb, which is here, that is their engineer, as the applicant's agent / attorney, and then Mr. Henderson did sign the application. So would that be sufficient for David to be able to make the presentation on their behalf?
I didn't read the application to say that, but if the planning commission so finds, then I would say you could proceed. I think it is a dangerous precedent.
Ms. Marsh, could you share again what you just read about that?
Yes, so, and if you will look in your packet to there, in this section, for the application that we require to be submitted for a zoning change map amendment, you will see on there that, it's like the fourth little box down, the applicant's agent / attorney, which this is where they usually put the person that is going to be presenting on their behalf. They do have David, but David Lamb, who is here, who did their development plan and has worked with them, the engineer on the project, as their agent / attorney. And then if you flip to the back page of the actual application, you will see where John Henderson is the one who signed the application.
Excuse me a second.
Which I don't want to speak out of turn. They can probably let me know that John Henderson, I would believe, has the, he is able to speak on the company's behalf. So he would be a person that is acceptable to sign the application saying who their representative would be.
John Henderson is an attorney.
Yes.
He is the in-house attorney for Coal Company.
Yes.
Okay, we have on the application
Down here.
signed by,
Can you get him here?
Yeah, I'll get him on the phone.
we have on the application signed by this Vice President for Land Management, Mr. Henderson, that David Lamb is their agent. So, did we not see this coming? May I ask?
When we met with the folks, we told the applicants that they needed to have someone who was able to legally bind the corporation to the rezoning.
Which, really quickly, if you all will also look at 1139, the one that we just had take place in the beginning of this meeting, the applicant's agent / attorney is Chris Hopgood, and that's who was allowed to speak on their behalf, and then they signed their application. So, I'm just going to give you that information.
Chris is an attorney.
Correct, but it says applicant's agent / attorney, so it doesn't say that they're required to be an attorney, per our application.
Is Mr. Lamb here?
Correct, yes, he is.
Okay. Are you prepared to make this presentation?
Certainly.
Hold up here. Tommy Joe, do you have a recommendation? Sorry to put you on the spot, but that seems to be where we're at.
I recommend that we do not allow a non-attorney to represent a corporation in a rezoning.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, sir.
That's fine.
We got to chew on this a little bit.
Okay.
Let me make something. If we table this and reconvene tomorrow night at 6, can y'all have somebody here?
Yes.
Is there a problem with that?
I think that might be as
Can we,
good as we can come
table
up
it
with.
for one night? Or do they have to wait a certain amount of time?
No, we can do it. I mean, we read it into the record.
And then we would not adjourn this
You
meeting.
can do it. You don't adjourn, you continue the meeting
Tomorrow night.
with a motion until tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
I'll make that in form of motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? The motion is to continue this meeting tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. And Riverview will have the proper representatives on hand.
Sorry for the inconvenience, but
I apologize to you all over there as well.
We need a roll call.
Yes, we have any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Kevin Richard,
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett,
Yes.
Mac Arnold,
Yes.
XR Royster,
Yes.
Dickie Johnson, Gary Gibson,
Yes.
Gray Hodge, Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Very good. Table that item. Going back to our original agenda, I need a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, we are out of public hearing. Next item on the agenda is the January finance report. Ms. Curtis?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Our February finance report, I just need your approval for the January.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for coming, folks. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, our January finance report, we're at 62% of budget. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Just need approval.
Any questions concerning the finance report? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the finance report as read.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Finance report is approved. The bond report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one item up for discussion tonight. It is the Greystone subdivision for developer Brad Hazelwoods. If you'll remember, we separated that out a couple years ago now. They originally had a bond, or we currently hold a bond for them in the amount of $25,135 for sidewalks. The recommendation from the city engineer is that the sidewalks have been completed and that we need to go ahead and send that to the city for acceptance. And once the city accepts that, we will release the remaining bond on those.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion in regard to the bond report.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the bond report as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Bond report.
Yes.
Bond report's approved. In your packet is a copy, skipping to administrative business. I believe there's a copy of the proposed planning commission committees. I'll entertain a motion to approve these appointments as presented.
so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed? Planning commission committees are approved. Other business?
No, sir.
Staff have any other business? Anyone else have any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Now we adjourn.
Oh, excuse me.
No, we're continuing.
Already. I entertain a motion to call in the night and see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Official action.
Do we have to?
Hearing until tomorrow night.
Okay.
Need a motion. I'll make it.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Okay. continue tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. I hope everybody can attend. Mr. Arnett, are you going to be able to join us again?
Yes, sir.